Hello, hello. So today's special treat on the day of love is we're going to show a little love for Jeffrey Gallo. Jeff and I have worked together, have got to know each other over the last, I don't know, 6, 8 months now.
Right.
And Jeff, don't go back to like middle school or high school because we know you were wild and woolly in those ages. Tell me a little bit like how you got to where you are, and just as a quick hint of where we're going. This conversation, Jeff is the absolute king when it comes to working with mortgage brokers and realtors and developing those relationships and niching, however you want to say it, down in that area. And even in like his website, it has nothing to do with the insurance industry. It is all realtors and loan officers. And so he's really gotten granular. So Jeff, how did you get here? Tell us where you come from.
Yes, absolutely. So Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Always got to start with that. Prep it pretty hard. I started my shop back in 2012. I was working captive before that, and we started our shop pretty much as like a generalist agency. It's very similar to most stories where you don't really know where you're going to get business from, so you're kind of just putting it all out there and hoping that you get traction somewhere. And where we found traction was, and this took a while, it was 4 or 5 years in, we started to realize that loan officers and realtors were our most consistent referral sources in the areas that we were networking and where we were able to really help out. So about 4 or 5 years into the business starting, we started to really start playing around with the idea, like, what if we just served the loan officer and realtor and the customers of the loan officer and real estate community here in Philadelphia? And then I would say for 2 years we weren't officially doing it, but it was most of our activity was tied towards working with those clients and working with that community. And I would say about 2.5 years ago is when we go, let's just double down on it. So we really started, like, we're not going to do anything but working for loan officers and realtors. And that goes from everything from, like you mentioned, their branding, website, how even we put together internal organization and processes, just trying to make sure that everything that we're building here is somehow tying back to making the lives easier of our real estate partners. So fast forward to today, now we are pretty much known as that type of organization where, like, every single policy that we write is tied to a real estate transaction. And we have a whole department working to make sure that the speed and the efficiency stays in place for those relationships. So that's I try to make it as quick as possible to get to where we are today. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that.
So how long have you owned your agency?
Since 2012, so 9 years.
Okay.
Scratch shop.
And you said coming from captive. Were you captive before?
Yeah, Liberty Mutual Insurance. We started out 4 years. Had a great experience there. I got no beef with Liberty. I just knew that I always wanted to start a business. I wasn't married to insurance specifically. I just knew I wanted to start a business. And I think because I was so broad in willing, like, whatever opportunities presented themselves, insurance was sitting right there as a beautiful option. You know what I mean?
Man, the great thing about insurance, you don't have to go back to school either.
Yeah, exactly. You're going to learn a lot, though.
You do.
It's that thing where everybody says, you ever notice this? Like, everybody says, I could sell insurance. I know so many people. Like, that's my favorite line of all time. I'm like,
Love
oh,
it.
yeah. You're going to hit up all those people and make them buy insurance off you. It's very comical.
So Jeff, I'm getting a little bit of feedback there
Am I
on the
screwing you
noise,
up?
but no, you're good. So a lot of people, they recognize, they understand that they need loan officer relationships, they need realtor relationships, right? And they get their comfort zone is not going out and getting those. And as one of my mentors, Brent Kelly, always says, like, progress starts right outside of your comfort zone is where progress starts. And
Yeah.
so they don't know what to say to these loan officers. They don't know what to say to these realtors when they walk in their offices. They don't know if they should be scheduling appointments first or they should just be walking in on them. Should they bring chocolate? Should they bring
Yeah.
fruit? Should they bring vegetables? What does it look like to I guess start from the beginning. What does it look like to create that list of
Yep.
people that you think are the right? What does it look like to create that first list? Here's the people in my network that I want to start going after. And what does it look like to call on them for the first time, to walk in their office the first time?
Yeah.
What is that
Yeah,
process?
absolutely.
Identifying.
Yeah, so I would not encourage dropping in. We're all business owners here. It's just totally inappropriate. Anybody that comes in the door trying to sell me anything, I'm just like, there's ways to do this, man. Like, do not just show up. So I would really encourage, if you want to be looked at as a true partner and not a dude begging out or gal begging for a handout or I love the term "throw you a bone." I got that in the past. Like, I don't need your bone. So if you want to be treated as a real partner, don't just drop in. No one cares about your donuts. Anything that you are annoyed by with salespeople that come to your office, assume that's the case for loan officers and realtors.
That's a great point.
So that's number one. In regards to getting started, if it's a personal line shop in general, or you're just getting started, you will have some organic real estate transactions that just fall in your lap. Current customer buying another property. You get referred by so-and-so who's looking to buy whatever, however you got that initial real. And I always tell people to start with this because it's the easiest way to get started. Whatever real estate transactions you have going on in the office, make sure that when it's completed to ask your buyer, that's your client previously, to tell your loan officer and the realtor how much of a good transaction they had working with you. That's way better than like go tell your friends for to call us for auto and home insurance. I mean, that's nice, but it won't. You might get one or two out of it, but it's not something that's going to feed you consistently. So we always encourage, we explain every single buyer that like, hey, our whole business is tied towards loan officers and realtors referring us. So really open that up, that door up there, and let them know how your operation runs. Because then they could become your biggest advocate, and it's much easier when their borrower comes back to them or their buyer says these guys are awesome, give them a shot. And then also with that, so that's two parts. That, making sure the client goes back and telling them. And then also you want to reach out to the realtor and loan officer of that transaction. You guys have a shared customer. You're doing a deal together. So always making sure to touch base just to say hello. I would really encourage not jamming product down their throat. It's really not going to do you any good. But just to say hello and that you specialize. You want to come off as like, even if you're just getting started, like we specialize in doing new home buyers. So being upfront and telling them what your intentions are from the beginning will get you on that radar. You know what I mean? That's like that first point. Miles, if I go too far with this, just let me know. I'll be happy.
No, we want to get granular. That's what people want.
Yeah. So then when it comes to like realtors and loan officers, more on like the cold call approach, it's like anything. You're going to suck. But like you just got to make that call. You know what I mean? Or if you have specific, making the call and just introducing yourself as somebody that works and helps the loan officer and real estate community, and can you grab a lunch? You're probably not going to get much traction there, but just saying hello, I would definitely not send an email. I get that all the time. Everyone just deletes them. I talk to realtors and loan officers. They forward me emails from insurance agents, and they go, look at this clown, and then they delete it. So you don't either call them as they're salespeople. They respect the uncomfortable phone call. So if you just embrace it, at the worst comes to worst, I'll say if a person is a nice guy, like, no thanks, man, I got a guy, my brother-in-law's been selling insurance for a year, whatever, like, who knows? That's what I would encourage, is like getting on the phone, get uncomfortable with being uncomfortable, and just introducing yourself and your firm.
So do you lead with any kind of pain that you're trying to solve for them, or do you lead with some sort of process that you've developed that's really unique to your agency that provides a benefit to what they have problems with? Or do you lead with trying to think like when you're coming into that conversation that they've heard,
absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, they've heard that conversation 3, 4, 5 times. So what is it different that you're coming into them and saying, this is why I'm different. This is why you should take 5 seconds out of your day to talk.
Oh, absolutely. It really depends on the situation. So like, for instance, if I know we have a niche product that helped the recent customer. So for instance, we had a situation literally right before this phone call, closing today. We didn't get it until Friday. And because the previous agent wasn't able to do a rent back situation, they're going to rent back the house for a period of time. Find out last minute, we jump in. Now I'm only working with the realtor, right? But the loan officer, the loan officer processor, was the one who was freaking out. So it's because it's on her to get this thing to close it. So making that phone call immediately after, I'm like, hey, just want to let you know this specific situation some carriers have issues with, but we have products for it. So what I always try to do is I try to be very loose. I allow them to dictate. I know what I want to communicate product-wise or solution-wise, but I want to feel the person out first. Meaning, like, if I jump on the call and I go, like, if the guy's like, hey, man, what do you want? Then I go right into product because that guy's just, all right, man, listen, I have this product for this situation. Your buyer had it. Think of us for this, right? And then if it's useful, they'll take it and run with it. Then the dude I just reached out to, the loan officer, he goes, hey, man, we only do, he's like, out of all of our deals, we probably do 15% in Philadelphia. I go, awesome. For that 15%, we are the shit. Like, you need to call us. Because if I can get him for that 15%, he'll refer all of it. We're gonna, I don't want to be braggadocious here, but we're going to do a better job than whoever Joe Schmo brother-in-law, it's always a brother-in-law, that he's referring now. Because I can guarantee that person doesn't specialize in this, So I always try to go after a certain fix tied to that borrower or tied to somewhere where I know that is going to be a constant problem for me.
Other than the fact that you're from Philadelphia and a badass, what gives you that confidence to know when you say, like, we're going to do a better job than anyone else does? Like, how do you know that? What is it that you specifically know you're doing better than other agencies?
Yeah, so most importantly is that insurance agents in general, and this is regardless of whatever niche you're in, we're like the only business who kind of knows their revenue next year. And that makes us kind of soft in the real estate world. They are all, everyone in that business is new business driven, meaning that they don't get paid again. They only, whatever they hunt today is what they are getting, what they're going to be bringing home. So I encourage people, just as a mental, like, mind state of your agency, is to become new business driven. Get on their level. If they're running, you need to be running right next to them. You know what I mean? And that's really important to distinguish from the beginning. If they shoot you an email introducing you to somebody, or a text message introducing you to somebody, jump all over to the point where it's almost ridiculous. Like, they send the email and you reply back within 20 seconds. Like, be that level of hungry, and it will show. I guarantee you it will show. Because it will be and it's not just that one time, it's every single time prioritizing. So, like, for instance, when new inbounds come in, if it's a live phone call, everybody drops everything. Whoever the salesperson is available, they have to take the phone call. They are calling us another time. We can't say we'll call you back when the agent gets in. Not happening. If for some reason that the agent's not available, or the first person that receives the phone call has to really make sure that person knows that this is awesome, that they're buying a property. People get beat down by the time they get to insurance. It sucks. There's like 50 freaking people you have to call, a million salespeople. You don't know who's trying to screw you. So just kind of bringing it back to, like, when that first phone call calls in, like, yo, you're buying a house. Congratulations. This is fantastic. Trying to really boost them back up because they forgot that this is actually a positive experience. And calling the insurance office is not the funnest part about buying a property in the first place, So that's part of it, is just really understanding where everybody's at and where their headspace is, whether it's the anxiety level of the buyer, the loan officer trying to close the deal, the processing team needing the docs in order to do so, and the realtor just trying to make sure that no one goes rogue. So there's all these people at play. So when I say I'm confident in our process, no one's taking that stuff into consideration and then building their systems around that.
So would you say one of your, I like to call them pods or points of differentiation, are you saying that you focus primarily on speed, but are you talking price with the loan office as well? Are you telling them that you're going to get them the best price, you're going to give them the lowest rates, or is your big thing time, speed?
Yeah, speed and consistency is what we're selling. We will be consistently well priced because we're brokers. We have good products. We're going to be consistent. We're not going to be these outliers where like everybody else is this and we're like up here. It's just not happening. We're going to be.
The game. Agents feel like they need to talk about they're going to be the cheapest price. They're going to get their borrowers the cheapest insurance. When what you're saying is, we're not talking about the cost or the price of insurance at all. We're talking about the speed and time and efficiency of which we're doing the work. But we're not even talking about what the price is. That's exactly,
yeah. And I always tell people, like, listen, I can sell you trash. I can sell you trash and get you through the door. You know what I mean? Like, it's not, but you don't want that borrower calling you when shit goes down. Be like, my insurance is trash and I'm in a real bad spot. It's just not a good look. So what I always tell people is that if we're offering a product, I'm extremely confident, just because I know the marketplace we're in, that we're going to be really competitive on price if we're comparing apples to apples. But I do stress that we add on a lot of stuff that is really important to buy and that your buyers should be considering and having that conversation about. So we talk about endorsements. There's usually $300 to $400 difference in price from what will get you to closing versus what you should be buying. And you have to be careful because like the debt to income, I hear a lot of people that work in the loan officer realtor space, and I know there's a few firms out there that specifically go after this, is debt to income is a situation where your insurance can't go over, your total loan payment can't go over a certain number, right? So if you start advertising like, hey, we'll make sure the insurance is real cheap so that you can get through the door, it's not, you're going to attract the wrong type of loan officer, because that guy who's not doing the job correctly and underpricing insurance or not doing the full scope of the entire to make sure that when he's taking the application that this deal is going to work regardless if the insurance is $80 or $100 or whatever, you're going to do yourself a disservice and make yourself not want to be in the loan officer realtor space. Those situations happen to even the best loan officers, but it's not something you want to encourage or advertise, because it gets you start off on the wrong foot. We've had, and again, this is all trial and error. Like, I've had loan officers that I went into it with, like, hey man, you have debt to income situations, we can solve those for you. And that's exactly what the relationship was.
Yeah.
It was only shit. They just sent us their stuff they couldn't squeeze through. So we ended up having to part ways with a lot of those people, or convert them. We're like, yo man, we got to get everything, or we can't help you for these situations, because a lot of times they don't close, or they do close, and then we're trying to call them back to make endorsements to get the right coverage, and it's just a hairy situation, you know?
Well, I appreciate the information you gave us on developing those immediate relationships and the time over the price thing. What does it look like once you've gotten in the door, you have created that initial relationship, maybe you've gotten your first 2-3 referrals, the process has gone well, and we talked about this before we hit the record button, those deposits versus withdrawals. So you made that immediate deposit, you created the relationship with the loan officer, you know the processor's name, and you might know that she likes vegetables instead of cookies, right? But what does it look like to continue to make deposits or continue to develop those relationships? Is that a weekly thing? Is that a monthly thing? Or they just like the experience and doesn't take many more deposits? What does it look like to retain?
It really depends on the situation, like anything else. So what our main goal is to get the referral process automated. That is our number one goal. So when we first start working with a loan officer and realtor, like we want to know who's your go-tos for what. We want to know who should we be sending insurance to. If it's multiple people, we want to know who they are. We want to make sure the mortgagees. We want to get all the upfront underwriting stuff that can be unique to them and their firms, right? Addressed up front to create as little friction as possible.
So is that like an
getting it into
intake form like a prospect, Jeff? I mean, almost like you take a quote sheet for a prospect. I mean, do you have an intake form with stuff for loan officers?
So, like for instance, if let's say we get 2 or 3 referrals, and we're like, hey, we've noticed that Nicole is on your deals who's been asking for insurance. Is this the go-to? Okay, yes, confirmed. Or it might be Nicole, or it might be Tim. Okay, great. So then we have a list that we put together. All right, perfect. Hey, do you guys require RCEs on every single deal? Certain situations, okay, so we have like a spreadsheet. The mortgagee clause. Does the mortgagee clause change depending on loan? How many different loan products are you selling? Should we assume that this is the right one? So there's a few questions that we want to make sure that they're going to ask us on every deal anyway. We'd rather just be in front of it to, again, just differentiate ourselves from every single deal that comes through that door. It's important to understand and to know where the processor is coming from, because they're waiting on hold.
Agent I talk to, Jeff, is asking those kind of questions and like creating the referral relationship, like not necessarily written out formally, but you're asking questions that get to know them and their particular sauce, right, of how their system works. I think every other agent walks in there and just says, I can solve this problem. I can change effective dates within 30 minutes. Everything. I look forward to hearing from you, right? But you're qualifying these loan officers, asking them questions, and it probably feels a bit more professional to them than just the random guy.
It's exactly right. It's business as usual is the way I'm trying to what I'm trying to create there is that, okay, these guys really, the more upfront work you do, and not just insurance, but literally anything, the more you spend a little extra time on the front end, you kind of create your own outcome. You know what I mean? Well, like you're setting it all up. So like, why would we not refer at this point? You know? And once we have the processor looped in, the hardest part is getting the automated piece. So that once the processor's looped in, we've got the green light. Like we really encourage our loan officers to like, hey, tell that processor like every deal to refer us. But the main thing we're trying to do is get them to put it into there's like a list of checklist items that the processor will, or the LOI, which is a loan officer assistant, will send out. And one of which is HOI, please send us over your insurance agent's information. If you got a quote, send it over to us immediately. If we can add, and it's not aggressive, but if we could say something like, if you need a good recommendation, this is a firm that we've had good success with, or something like that. Our phone number, website, or email, whatever. We try to let them tailor it themselves. I've noticed that when I try to send them, they're like, "No, I don't like anything about what you sent me." And sometimes it's too advertising of Jefferson Avenue. I've done that too, where I'm like, if you need a referral for insurance, call Jefferson Avenue. They're amazing. Like, it's a little too aggressive as well. So we really try to, like, however they want, but we want to put that in wherever they're asking for insurance. And if we've got to that point, unless there's a change in processor or change in roles, we've pretty much automated that moving forward. And now we're getting a decent amount of their buyers by just the repetition of it all. And it's good for their business. I mean, it's such a consistency, which is what, like, if there's a problem with insurance, you know where to go to. If there's a problem with price, you know where to go to. If there's a problem with HOI changes, you know where to go to. You know what I mean? And if we can't do something, we can call them way beforehand and be like, yo, I want to make sure this is on your radar. You guys didn't catch this. This is in a flood zone. And the seller is a flipper who bought it cash. He doesn't know it's in a flood zone. I'm going to tell your client to bail. Like, this is a horrendous deal. And that's uncomfortable. But, like, that's what being a real partner looks like, is sometimes giving bad news. And they need that bad news. The earlier they get it, the more they can correct and go back to the drawing board and kind of get before they get right before closing and they realize they're screwed, which doesn't help anybody. You know?
I remember you saying something. Hang on, here we go.
You're so cool, Miles. All your dings and and tech.
No,
I
but
love
like
it.
my light just turned off. Like, I had this light, so now I look dark. This side's shaded. My went. This is a constant struggle. I'm trying to be professional here, but let's
Oh
be
man,
honest.
that's funny. That's awesome.
Hey, well, I remember one thing particular you told me that you said when you introduced yourself to loan officers, you wanted to show them your process. I
Yes.
don't know how in depth you go. I mean, are you opening up like your CRM system and like doing a screenshot, or are you like bringing them in your office? I know something else that you do, which, man, you are the best at this. I mean, you have loan officers going with you to like the soup kitchen, right? I mean, you do
Yeah,
like
yeah. Every month,
loan
every single
officers.
month, like clockwork.
Tell me a bit about like what it looks like when you say we're opening them up the hood and showing them our engine to get them bought into how we do things, and how are you connecting with your referral partners in the community as well?
Yeah, yeah. I'm sorry. I should have went. I would go down these tangents, bro. I apologize. I I just noticed it now that I didn't answer your question whatsoever. So in regards to like our process, we don't get too deep into like I try to stay away from company specific stuff unless there's a real problem being solved by one individual carrier. Um, I want to like let them know what, and I have like this nice flyer which I encourage people getting one created of what your process looks like, but more not on a product level on like how does this look for the customer. So first initial phone call with customer, we need to speak to them. We ask all the questions that insurance companies we know every carrier asks, and we're very specific on like making sure we don't ask individual carrier questions on that phone call. Do the shopping, and then after the shopping, go back and let the customer know what we found. Follow up with any additional questions that we need, and this is all stuff I'm having the conversation with the loan officer, like the exact same thing. On that second phone call, going through the questions we missed, tailoring the coverage that's appropriate. And we try to do it on the phone. I think it's a really important thing to kind of show people how we came about. Like, hey, we have these two companies, both of which are neck and neck. I have to ask you a few more questions because they're looking pretty good. Okay, got it. And then like, hey, like this company doesn't charge much for deductible, so we want to keep or this company will give us a huge break on deductible. All that. I try to make sure that we're letting people in on what we're trying to create. And that's what our salespeople do here as well. It's just really kind of like show them what we're looking to do and trying to really tailor it to what the person really needs. It's really important. And that's what they're doing on their end. So if the loan officer's doing it where they're sitting on the phone and they're going over a 15-year mortgage or buying down rate or like doing an arm, like they're having that discussion and feeling it out. This is just an extension of that exact same process. And then the most important thing to them, though, is that once the deal has been confirmed that they want to move forward with us, that's when our onboarding team comes in. We have two onboarding managers. Then their number one priority is rushing docs over to homeowner for mortgage companies. So getting the HOI over in a fast time. Literally, I instructed my team to, as soon as they come in each day, is to scan for anything related to a closing, because those are the things we have to do first. And again,
And I got to tell
nothing.
anyone listening that, I mean, you have identified your target customer, you've identified your target referral source, you've customized the experience for those referral sources, and then built and developed and educated your team in order to provide that exact experience that you want to happen. That makes everyone feel like this is a professional program walking through a defined, process that you've created for this. And just listening to you, like, this is a professional system versus the donut guy that's walking in the loan officer's
That's exactly
office.
right. And it's not like you can't do it a couple times and then call it quits. Like the consistency of it is what matters. Everything. It just doesn't matter what you do as long as there's consistency to it. That's how you get traction. I was just like I just watched a pretty cool Simon. What's that dude's name who did Start with Why?
Oh, Simon Sinek.
Yeah, and he was doing that. He was talking about like how you go work out a couple times, you don't see anything, but the day in and day out of it, eventually you'll start to see progress. And that's been very much our story. It's just being so consistent that like over time you've come to expect a level of speed and accuracy and systems and processes towards this whole entire experience that when they don't get it, they're like, what the hell? I'm going back to these guys. You know what I mean? Like you get, we want you to take it for granted, because if you ever shy away from us, you'll come right back, you know? On the soup kitchen stuff, but I didn't want to skip over that. I thought that was important. We do every single month, consistency. It's back to consistency. Every single month, our team reaches out to one of our loan officers and realtors. We usually try to get a 2 or 3, and we try to tie them together. We don't want to have a realtor who we work with the loan officer and then we bring another loan officer. That's not a good look. So we try to have some sort of continuity there where they all know each other to somewhat. Or if it's a realtor who we are new to working with and we don't work with any of their loan officers, or vice versa, we try to create situations where they can partner up and meet. So we do this every single month. We shoot a really professional video for the partners that come out. We share it on social media. We encourage them to share it as well. It's a big part of, like, it's just the more tangible version of service is the way I look at it. Like, we are all about the community. We're all about helping out. If we're doing this stuff anyway internally, why not extend it to the people that are invested in our success? And they want to do this stuff. It's, a lot of people want to do community. Like, I bet you, Miles, if I was in your town and I was like, hey, like, you want to come out for a soup? Like, we're going to do 3 hours at the soup kitchen. I just know you'll be like, yeah, man, let's go. Like, people, if you smack it in their face, they'll make time for it. And people want to get engaged. They want to do good, especially if they know they're doing good. That's crucial.
When that's the deposits. That's the deposits that you're making, and you're not just doing the deposit where you grab coffee and catch up on what the kids are doing, right? Like a deposit, like working together in the community, creating new stories, new situations. So the next time you're on the phone with someone, they're talking about the experience they had with you, not a conversation, right? I mean,
exactly.
It's fun conversation, but now you've got experiences to talk about, which is, that's what you have with your friends. You talk about the experiences that you've had together. Remember that trip we went on. Remember when we, it's the experiences.
And if you don't like community service, you probably suck. Like, in real, like, you're probably a terrible human. If I can't get you to come out to, like, give some time, and you're like, no, man, I'm all about this money, and that's it. It's like, all right, man, well, like, you're not going to align well long term anyway. You're probably one of those DTI guys. You know what I mean? So there's a level of screening people, basically, that definitely takes into account.
I don't want to take up more time than I asked you for. There was one other thing that I think is important to what you do, people should know about, is how important is and I know the system you use, but, there's other systems out there. So Agency Zoom or Better Agency, or, there's lots of options out there. But how important is it in your process to have a system that you're walking that experience through for your prospects and maybe even your loan officers? Yeah. Tell us a little bit about this, like, entering your prospect and walking through that process.
Yeah. So once a new lead comes in, assuming that it's not live, we have a customer concierge who pretty much all inbound communication comes through. And his goal is to get it into Zoom immediately. Now, once it's in that new category or whatever, you can set it up multiple ways. But that new category, the salespeople's goal is to make that contact day of, immediately. No one is calling. Getting ready to call the insurance shop is not something you look forward to. Like, it's like, I got to get that done. So when they made that call, meet them there. Don't go, like, you got yourself set up to make this terrible call, and we'll call you when you're not prepared for it. So everything you possibly can, using the new column, and we're religious about it, is making sure you set your shot clocks, making sure people know they got to jump on that immediately to make the contact. And get that intake, the questionnaire, to the most that you possibly can. There's always going to be stuff they don't know on hand, but getting them moved to that contacted tab. Another thing is we always want to be touching base throughout it. They have to be buying this. There's a small window of time, so they can't let leads sit. So if it starts going every single stage, we need multiple follow-ups. And we also want to be able to show the multiple follow-ups. No one ever asks, but hey, I'm looking at the notes here, Mr. Loan Officer, and we've reached out to this guy 20 times, and he's just not responding. So if he needs us, we're here. But I want to make sure you know that Is there a missed phone call? Is there an email that we got wrong? And it allows you, whoever the marketing person is, or if it's you selling the policy, to be able to have a real good conversation about like what has been done so far to make contact. The last piece of it, when the policy's sold, the automations that kick in are what's most important. Because like as soon as we drag a home policy to sold, our onboarding team gets an immediate task created that says get the HOI to the loan officer immediately. And that was a game changer for us because we have QQ and it kind of gets buried in tasks while it would require a manual email, which is annoying. But Zoom allowed us to like put the priority first, getting the HOI over even before applications are signed. Like once we get that green light, we got the bind request. Okay, like get it right over and communicating that with the customer. Hey, before you do anything, I want to let you know the mortgage side of the house is taken care of. Because that's what they get so stressed out. Like, do I have to sign this before they send this over to the mortgage company? Or what if I don't get this done in time and they need it yesterday? And I'm letting people know that, like, hey, as soon as we issue this coverage, our team's going to be notified to reach out to your mortgage company. It just brings down that level of stress. And Zoom's been crucial for that. Absolutely crucial. You helped me make it, man. You put it all together for me. You're the guy. So it's been super helpful in that aspect.
Well, man, I am super impressed with your shop and always have been. I don't even know why you asked me to help you because you help me more than I help you, I think, sometimes.
Nonsense, man.
I would say a couple things I picked out of that for anyone watching this is, one, you know your prospect well. You know who your customer is, and you know your referral source as well, meaning you know the loan officer, you know what they're thinking about, you know their language, you know the acronyms, you know what the hot buttons are, you know how their shops work. Like if the loan officer is your customer, which basically they are, like you know how their shop works. So when you walk in there, you know how to solve problems immediately. You know what kind of conversations you're going to have. It's almost it's like you know your producers, like you know how that system works. You know how their 100%. System works. So you can identify and build an internal system that works directly with that referral source. And the way that you handle those relationships and the community engagement, it's a full package. It's a full-time client, right? We're not part-time clients. You've developed a package around that referral source that's very niche.
Yeah, that's 1,000% right. And again, I would really encourage being an open book, asking the questions, because that's how we did it. It's not just like we figured this out. We just kept asking what your frustrations are. What could we be doing better? And some things you can't fix. You know what I mean? Like it just is what it is. But other things, there's real either ways we can like completely solve it or make it a little easier. Which is sometimes an annoying process for all parties involved.
Well, for anyone who wants to check it out, JeffersonAvenueInsurance.com, is that right?
Jefferson Ave Insurance, AVE.
AVE, that's
Dude,
Jefferson
when you're starting a business, man, make your freaking website short. Jesus Christ, I'm stuck with this thing for literally ever. JeffersonAveInsurance.com. Yes, check it out.
That website, they just redid it. It is fantastic, and I'm telling you, it is different than other insurance agency websites because, again, Jeff is laser focused on his target market, and his website is all about realtors and loan officers. So it is super niche. So check it out, definitely. And man, I can't tell you enough thank yous for spending the time with me today. I've had a lot of people ask about what you do. Let's just get on a call and record this.
Unobtainable. I'm happy to jump on a call. Just if anybody wants to chat, I'm happy to talk to them. It's perfectly fine. I've jumped on enough phone calls with people like Miles or people that have been doing cool shit, and they've always been extremely warm and welcoming. And I'm just gonna try to pay it forward. So I'm happy to help any way possible.
Hey, I appreciate it. Well, thank you so much. And here in Eastern time, it's lunchtime, and so I'm gonna check out. And again, thank you so much for your time, Jeff. All right, bye.